My interview with Africanus Press editor Cherno Ba continues with part 2, a further look into the coordinated efforts by the government of Sierra Leone to criminalize journalism and to shut down dissent. You'll also hear about the corruption involving inflated contracts for millions of dollars for voting equipment for recent elections. We're saving the best for last in part 3, an investigation into the cyber attacks on Africanus Press and more. This is from April 2021. So this is the bank governor met with the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice, and you said it was on instruction of the president?
Yes. So when we published that information about the First Lady and the bank evidence, that was around January. Then towards February, the conversation was already across every corner of the country. People with their cell phones could see not just the bank statement of the First Lady, but they could also identify names of companies, names of individuals, some of them their neighbors who they've gone to school with all the monies the bank statement will show. So it became both a national and international conversation, an embarrassment.
You came to power, you promised, and one of your campaign slogans was to really try to root out corruption in Sierra Leonean government. You investigated your predecessor's administration, you made it a focus, especially early on. Fast forward 3 years, looking around you, what do you think Sierra Leoneans make of how you have handled corruption?
Well, corruption was endemic in this country. It was fashionable. It was a way of life. What we have done, or what I have done, is to make it very risky. It is to make it difficult and to make it not fashionable anymore. With the use of the Anti-Corruption Commission, we have been able to recover quite a lot of money from those who acquired monies illegally. When we came in, they rated us. Our control of corruption index was about 47%. Today, we are in the 80s. In the past 3 years, we have made progress every year.
President Bio, though, your chief minister has been accused of corruption, and your wife, the First Lady, has also been accused of corruption, misusing public funds. How are they being held accountable?
It is easy to accuse or make allegations that any member of my family or the government is corrupt. We have a system. You have to prove that, you have to produce evidence. So without that, I can say you are corrupt, even when I cannot see. I hardly have any dealings to do with you. Whenever there is any claim of corruption, the Anti-Corruption Commission is free to go and investigate, and where there is evidence of wrongdoing, as far as monies are concerned for the state, we will take action.
So let me get this straight. If it is proven, President Bio, if it is proven, that the Chief Minister and the First Lady, your wife, have actually misused public funds, how will they be held accountable?
Well, there's a prescription for whatever happens. If that is the case, and it's proven in a court of law or by the commission, they either ask to pay for it, or there are different forms of punishment for that. And they will have to.
On top of that, you recently hired a brand new finance minister who was accused of long-standing corruption in the previous administration. What message does that send to Sierra Leoneans?
Again, you've used the word accused. And he has had to go through a very long legal process to prove that he is not guilty. So, like I said earlier, it is easier. Anybody can make such claims, outlandish claims, or that the other person is corrupt. But we are a law-abiding country, and we go through the entire length to make sure that when claims or allegations are made, we prove them in a court of law, and then we take the necessary actions.
The CNN interview you just heard is from May 11th, 2021, just 3 weeks after this letter regarding a criminal complaint against Chernow. In the interview, you hear the president mention the Anti-Corruption Commission multiple times. Here we see they did start an investigation in February of 2021, and there's a BBC report here I'd like to play a small bit from.
The President of the Republic of Sierra Leone puts together the Hands of Our Girl campaign. I am the face of the project.
So you're sure that all the procurements that happened legally, procedurally?
Like I said, those are questions that only the Office of the President can answer.
I contacted the Office of the President through the Head of Communication, Dr. Patrick Mwana. He assured me that the Information Minister would talk. Following a meeting at State House, apparently on the interview request, Information Minister Mohamed Rahman Souare called me to say no one would take the interview. I contacted the head of the Anti-Corruption Commission, Francis Benkaifala, to know whether or not they had looked into the matter. Not yet, he said, adding, and I quote, "The office is captured under audit and will do her part as part of that review process."
In June of 2021, just a month after that CNN interview, the Anti-Corruption Commission cleared the First Lady from any wrongdoing, and in the public statement about this, they refer to Section 39 of the Public Financial Management Act of 2016 that gives the state authority to expend state funds to unallocated head of expenditure to a certain threshold, to necessary public causes in the interest of the public, and that the said allegations were confirmed to be the exercise of the discretion provided by law to the Minister of Finance. However, according to Section 39 of the Public Financial Management Act, they need to have approval from Parliament, which, as Chernow explains, did not happen. Furthermore, this is the OCCRP, Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, dated January 23rd, 2023. Now, you heard in the BBC clip that things were caught up in audits. Sierra Leone's audit report for the year 2021, released last week, has unprecedentedly left out the office of the president, leaving civil society in doubt over the credibility of its findings and increasing suspicion that President Julius Maada is abusing the nation's wealth for personal enrichment. The report carefully scrutinized financial accounts of all government ministries and agencies. However, it did not make a single comment on financial management in the office of the president, the vice president, and the first lady. The OCCRP reached out to the audit service for comment, but was told that the responsible official had gone for prayers and would not be reachable until next week. It's important to remember that as Chernow, as Africanus Press reported, a lot of people, I believe it's over 170, were fired or suspended from the auditor's office, including Auditor General Laura Taylor Pierce, who had been in office for 10 years. Taylor Pierce was replaced until further notice, and the president announced that a tribunal would be set up to investigate her work. Africanus Press has stated that it was motivated by her insistence to include damning evidence of corruption in the administration. So now we will go back to Chernow explaining about Parliament and how they did not receive any budget approval under this Section 39.
So the Parliament then pretended they were going to summon or call for the finance minister and the bank governor to come to Parliament to explain how they allocated money to the First Lady when Parliament did not approve. Instead of them being arrested for the illegal use of public funds, the bank governor in turn met with the president and the Attorney General and the Ministry of Justice, and they decided that they should seek for legal ways, legal means of bringing a court case, a criminal case against the Africanist Press.
Let's look at how the government of Sierra Leone is criminalizing journalism in its threats to file criminal charges against Chernow and Africanus Press. If you look at page 2 in this letter, it explains at the top of the page how an employee of the bank of the government is not permitted to disclose information to the public. And then below that, we see a list of exceptions to those rules. And then below that, we see none of the exceptions above applied to Mr. Chernobyl and Africanus Press. Hence, the only avenue available to them for lawfully obtaining non-public information from the bank was the Rights to Access Information Act of 2013. There being no evidence that they chose this route to obtain the information they disclosed to the public, a reasonable conclusion can be made that Mr. Chernobyl and Africanus Press conspired with unknown persons to unlawfully access the said information, which essentially amounts to theft. Cherno and Africanus Press are not employees of the bank or the government, so it's a little weird how they're applying that there. I don't see how that applies. So they are threatening criminal charges based on a, quote, reasonable conclusion. There is no evidence of any such conspiring. And about the only thing the bank could really do is press charges against an employee of the bank if they were able to prove that that person did something breaking these rules. So this is from the ACLU, how the Supreme Court has recognized broad First Amendment protection for the publication of information of public concern, and it has extended that protection even to the publication of information acquired unlawfully by a source. It's particularly important for national security reporters who often rely on information that was illegally acquired by a source in publishing stories of considerable public concern. Now, it's not just in the US. We can see other instances from Reporters Without Borders. This is regarding a case in Denmark. They published information leaked by a Danish intelligence officer.
What we published is not illegal classified information. What we published is public interest information. In fact, a couple of years ago, the country enacted the Freedom of Information law, allows the disclosure, the publication, but none of the institutions are respecting that law. They don't even when there are cases of where other journalists have made requests for particular information, even from the Bank of Sierra Leone, they've not been able to access those. In fact, the public officials ignore the right to access information commission with impunity. The significance of that letter is the fact that the bank governor was actually the one that is supposed to be arrested for the misuse and misallocation of public funds. He also confirmed, the letter confirmed that the records are records of the Bank of Sierra Leone. The details we published are not false information. These are real-time data of how government is misusing public money. The key statement is that the reason why they should bring a court case or criminal charges is to prevent the continuation of the disclosure of such kinds of publication, either by the Africanus Press or any other publisher.
Right.
He called it any other errant publisher. So basically, what he's saying is that the use of public funds, the use of public money by public officials, even if that use of public money does not comply with the rules and laws and regulations governing the use of such funds, it should not be something that the public should be made aware of. Basically, he's saying corruption should happen in secret. Anybody who discloses evidence of the misuse of public funds, evidence of corruption, evidence of graft by public officials should be hounded, should be criminalized. So he's basically criminalizing the press and criminalizing myself as a journalist for simply publishing what is real evidence.
Right, and then we come to this next one a year and a month later, May of 2022, and this is from Office of the President. Request for admonition of the Africanus Press against inciting publications. Again, I want to say, I think the First Lady going on for 27 minutes calling you out by name, how is that not inciting violence? And you did receive death threats afterwards.
I think what we are showing here is the organized effort of the government of Sierra Leone itself, the official effort of the government of Sierra Leone and all the agencies of government, from the Office of National Security to the bank, to the Attorney General's office, the Office of the President, all of them not trying to address the misuse of public funds because they are implicated, but trying to find ways to shut down the Africanist press. And this is basically what we're showing here, is the overt operations of the government of Sierra Leone against the Africanist press and myself. And this information, by the way, is also available both to embassies, to foreign diplomats who are present in Sierra Leone, and to some of their officials outside of the country. We've sent all this information to every organization that is involved in Sierra Leone, including organizations like the MCC, who are talking about enforcing transparency and free speech and democracy in Sierra Leone. So you cannot ignore this evidence as a war against free speech, a war against the press. I strongly believe every citizen of Sierra Leone, every individual who is committed to transparency, partners of Sierra Leone, including foreign governments who are engaged in the government of Sierra Leone and who are concerned about democratic practice and the rule of law and transparency, should have access to this information. Because without access to such information, they will be misled to believe that we are dealing with a government that is actually concerned about good governance and transparency. What we are dealing with is a group of individuals who have ganged up to loot public finances. And the evidence is there. These are not just mere allegations. They are supported by documentary evidence, which nobody has denied.
You said something last time we met. You said stealing public wealth requires stolen power.
Yeah, 1 year to the elections, I pointed out that it will be difficult or impossible to have a free and fair elections in Sierra Leone, simply because I had seen this evidence of enormous loot of public funds. And I knew that for somebody who has stolen so much money and this massive evidence out in the public, then if you have stolen public wealth, you would definitely need stolen power to protect that wealth, because the only thing that prevented the people of Sierra Leone from holding these officials responsible and bringing them to justice for the misuse of public funds is because they hold political power. They are in charge of the instruments of coercion. They control the courts, they control parliament, control the police force, they control everything. So a loss of power will mean the loss of that right to impunity that they have apportioned to themselves. So which is why I said the nexus between political corruption and financial corruption rests in rigged elections. That I had said in advance of the elections that elections were going to be rigged, because with all this massive information, nobody was held responsible. Instead, there was a national effort, an international campaign by the politicians and their allies, both within Sierra Leone and outside of Sierra Leone, to shut down the Africanist press, to attack me and any other individual who they suspected was in remote conversation or had a remote relationship.
So you mentioned that it was overall, it was what, 10 million US? Is that right?
Yes, more than $10 million was stolen from the election funds through the procurement process, where a company that was not competent enough to handle the supply of voter registration equipment and election-related equipment materials was awarded a contract without compliance with the procurement rules, procurement laws, and regulations. So what turned out is that there's no evidence up to date of the supply of these equipment. And this money, some of it also came through the United States, through the Federal Reserve Bank.
Wow.
The procurement process itself did not comply with the laws. The wrong company was selected because the company is supported by ruling party officials. They left companies that had the track record and the capacity and the credibility to provide such, and who had lower bids. In fact, they inflated the procurement value, the value of the entire project, by over $6 million. And the company that was eventually awarded the contract also did not supply the equipment. The procurement arrangement happened around March, April to May and June.
So all of that money got you this: voter registration ahead of next year's elections in Sierra Leone. So September 2022, marred by faulty computers, long lines. I mean, this is the same stuff we see here. Waiting to register only to be told by officials that they were experiencing technical problems.
Where the rigging of the elections began. And again, these are not mere allegations. We published documentary evidence showing how the procurement process was rigged, how the money was stolen, the companies that were involved. In fact, individuals who participated in that fraud, the head of the procurement agency is now the head of the National Revenue Authority. After the election, was made the Director General. That's like placing somebody who facilitated the election financial fraud as head of the IRS. So instead of getting punished, this individual get rewarded with a higher responsibility,
right,
of the collection of taxes. So if somebody who could not manage and supervise the procurement process is now in charge of collecting state revenues, you know what that means?
The fox in charge of the hen house. I mean, it's the same. Yeah.
Kita kama kogizo da sana pero ajina ya dundi lali kanyonya mama sida dweriga gizo da sana paro agina Jalundi lali kanyenya mama kita duariga Agia kongwe anyisi yeini kinae Mondi nyisago paro ni kati paro ina Aworo kaka dimageni jabare o minitilie Linda liga minganya mama toka neliga kadari Akonga benjiga dundo nena kosango Adiresi maratime nyamba kato da kinitunae Akonga benjiga dundo nena kosango Adiresi maratime nyamba kato da kinitunae Kadero akongo aginya mama Iye dogiye aneni di paka chako chwe kaneni Inda si kadero akongo aginya mama Iye dogiye aneni di paka chako chwe kaneni Akika lorora kapenji do kaneni ga Ikoro nyeraga kakipenja ngamibenago agine Nyoja di Kisumu kaparo nidayudie Tokara kendo ayo inorobi emaweye akongo Kata kaneno kendi akongo yeinyisae Monda bekangeyo nyaloka chunyo aikomia wekeno Kaneno kendi ya kongo yeinyisae Monda bekangeyo nyaloka chunyo aikomia wekeno Kadero akongo aginya mama Iye idogiye aneni di paka chako chwe kaneni Inasi kadero akongo aginya mama Iye idogiye aneni di paka chako chwe kaneni Atika luorora kapenyi to kaneni ga Ikoro nyeraga kakipenja